Well, it's very, very good to be here today talking about some of the little great treasures that hide in not only in the Hervey Bay Historical Village and Museum rooms, but also probably in every museum around the place. And unfortunately, a lot of people come through museums don't really see all of the exciting things that are there. But you know, if you go down to the Hervey Bay Historical Village Museum down in Zephyr Street, one of the things we love to point out about is an old red bicycle. And if you had a second look at it, you wouldn't even look the second time. It's just an old bike, but it has such a story that it's absolutely fascinating. And it concerns a lady called Nita Rosslyn. Now, she was a soprano and in the early 20s, 30s, sang all around England. She was called the bell voice soprano. And strangely enough, when vaudeville come in, it sort of died out, and she was determined to keep singing. So she was presented with a bicycle, this very bicycle here in the 30s, with a carbide light, and here she is on the bike in London, and she travelled all around by bike, and every little village she came to, she'd put up her little sign, and then would have a concert that night. So that's interesting enough, except that when she'd done England and Scotland, Ireland and Wales, she hot-tailed it over to America and went all over America and all over Canada, still riding her faithful bike. Then she went to South America before the war, up into Hong Kong, Singapore, did a lot of New Zealand, and then she finished up in Australia. Did many shows all through the back country of Australia, doing the same thing, riding her bike, doing her little stories and singing at night, telling stories, and that's how she lived. Until, fortunately for us, in the early 70s, she retired to Hervey Bay. And unfortunately, like happens to everybody, she died here. She's buried in our cemetery out here. But the story is absolutely fascinating because we finished up with that very bike, and it's on display at the museum. The interesting thing is, a while back, maybe 2 years ago, we had an Adelaide group visiting the museum. They were up on a bus tour, but they were a bicycle group from Adelaide, and they were absolutely fascinated with this bike. So I finished up sending them all the details about this 1930s bike, and they couldn't believe that the brakes were where they were then, which is down here, and they've always been up the top here. They were absolutely fascinated with gears on the bike. We have done a rough estimate that this bike has done about 250,000 kilometres. The wheels have been round, the pedals have been round about 90 million times. We don't know how many seats she wore out, but she was an absolutely fascinating lady. So, you know, next time you're down at the museum, have a look in our old garage, and there on the wall, you'll see the full story of Nita Rosslyn, a great old lady, and just to show that, you know, she was determined to use her talents as a singer to travel the world, which she did, and finished up here and will be forever as part of our history and here in Hervey Bay.